what I would say for those who are like scared or a little bit worried about the risk of what it takes is I will say it is I have worked the hardest I have in my entire life as an entrepreneur. But every entrepreneur, in my opinion, or majority, I should say, does it because of the freedom that it gives you.
That's right.
To be and do what you want. And I will tell you, there's nothing like patting yourself on the back after you know you did everything that you could. And when you work for another business, and some businesses are getting better about this, but understanding and feeling appreciated by the companies that we work for sometimes isn't always seen about how much work we're actually putting into them.
Right.
And so as an entrepreneur, it's been like the first time that I've actually I know the work I've put into this, and the pats on the back to myself means something.
Exactly.
Because I know I did the work, and I know that I'm benefiting from the work I put into it and the time, effort, and energy.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to RealTalks podcast. I have an amazing guest here, and I'm very, very excited because I love to travel. I love to explore, see the world, not only here in the United States, but pretty much all over. I always tell people the world is our oyster, and the earth is so big that if you haven't had a chance to travel and explore and see other cultures, you're only seeing a small portion of life. And I'm super, super excited to introduce Lucie McGuire. She is an amazing guest. We actually met at a 10X Stages event that I attended in Miami about, I'd say 3 to 4 weeks ago, roughly. But Lucie is a world traveler, and she is the founder of Moxie Adventures Partners. So Lucie, for our viewers, our listeners here on Real Talks podcast, please introduce yourself and let us know what you do for your business.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Hey, Jay. Thank you so much for bringing me on. I really appreciate it. It's been such a journey absolutely throughout the world, right?
Yes.
And so I started Moxie Adventure Partners because it was so important to me in my journey of how I started to travel.
Yeah.
Because we're told we're an adult at 18. And
right.
I don't know about you, but that's the biggest lie I've ever been told. And you don't know yourself at 18. You barely know yourself in your 20s when you're trying to figure out life and figure out what you want to do. And when we are young, we're told, work, go to school, get a job, get the husband, get the career, and then just, one day, eventually, maybe you'll be able to travel if you have enough money. And when you retire, if we make it to retirement.
Right.
And so it's been a journey of me coming and leading to this business, but I just want to be able to help as many people as possible to see the world. And like you said, it's so big. It's a big world. Sometimes I think about the fact that not even if someone dedicated their entire life to traveling, and seeing everything, they couldn't see everything in the world. Even if they tried their entire life.
Right. Yeah. Absolute facts. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know there's so much to digest and as far as peeling the onion when it comes to traveling, and I'm super excited to do that with you. And just from my understanding, and I remember you have traveled to 27 plus countries, which is ridiculously amazing. That's awesome. And pretty much half of the United States, right? For the most part. But tell us so your first how did you get into this specific niche and industry of travel?
Yeah, so it has been a journey. I'm a multi entrepreneur, so I have multiple businesses. I own a social media agency, but this has always been a passion of mine, is traveling, and that started because in 2018 I took a study abroad trip that changed my life.
Wow.
And I only was able to get that opportunity because of my dad passing away. My dad passed away, and it was the hardest thing I've ever dealt with in my life. And I ended up getting a little bit of money from that. And I was in that mindset of being, I need to, get a house. So I tried to buy a house. I actually tried to do that first with the money, and it didn't work out, and things didn't work out in my way. And so I kind of had this screw it moment in me where I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go travel. And that's what I'm going to do with this, because I just felt like the world was not going my way in multiple aspects of my life, which I feel like we've all been through that at some point in our 20s, right?
Yeah.
Trying to figure out everything. I was in a bad relationship. That had happened with my dad, and I was trying to shift careers. And so when the opportunity came along, I ended up taking that chance to go study abroad over in Europe. I studied abroad in
Nice.
Czech Republic and Hong
Wow.
Kong. So
Wow.
quite a culture shift and shock.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was a month-long program, and I learned so much about myself, the
Wow.
culture that I was integrating into, learning it from an educational standpoint.
Right.
It changed my viewpoint of just like how the world actually worked. And I realized I'm from a small town in Florida, and so I realized how much bigger the world was. And I didn't realize how many different pieces of history were out
Right.
there. And so when I did that, I then stayed in Europe for an additional 3 months and backpacked to
Nice.
10 different countries with my best friend. And it blew my mind. I came back to my
Man.
small town after 4 months of being away and saw it
Overseas.
with new eyes. And I was
You're
like,
right.
wow, like this is where I'm from. Like it was just a complete, I felt like I came back another person. And
Yeah.
I just
No.
remember,
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
the end of that, thinking, how can I give this experience to other people? How
Mm.
can I help other people to experience this? Because I had to go through the worst thing in my life in order
Yeah.
to experience what I consider the best part of my life.
Right. Right.
And I feel like I don't want people to go through that. I don't want people to feel like they have to go through the worst thing in their life in order to get to that point. So I wanted to make it more accessible, and I did it all on a budget through backpacking, staying in
Yeah.
hostels, and all these things.
That well, man. Like I've only been to like European side area to Paris, France, but I didn't have time to go all over. You know, where I could have
Yeah.
just taken like a train and or I don't know, like backpack in Europe. But at some point soon, I'm hoping to go back there and bring my family and explore and experience those kind of things, which is truly wonderful because, as you stated, right, it is. We only see a small portion that we have here in the United States, and it's you can get a culture shock, like from especially like you went to Czech Republic and then the one side and then to Hong Kong, which is all the way to another continent, which is to me is so cool because I love learning about new culture, trying out new different food, which kind of leads to my next question, Lucy. I'm going to tell you like I travel, but I travel the normal way, like 99.9% of the people,
Yeah.
which is it could be very very expensive, especially if you're bringing family members, right? So for us, like I'd say every time we just came back from our vacation place in Mexico in Cabo, so I brought four other family members, yes, and you could just imagine just the five of us in for like 8 days. Oh,
Yeah.
just you could imagine how much it costs, right? So, but I understand that uh, based on what there's great opportunities and ways to minimize the cost. So, could you tell us a little bit of information on how that works, and or whatever you can share with us here?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's so many different ways that you can save money. And I really think it starts with a matter of mindset and your perspective of
Okay.
how, like, for instance, you just said the normal way to travel, right?
Right.
So my
Right.
normal way is budget travel, but like other people, when in America, we're told like traveling has to be expensive, or you have to go to these luxury places, or you have to stay in a
Hmm.
really nice hotel, because
Right.
our culture here is so different than other places in the
Right.
world where we don't get a lot of vacation time. We don't get, like, vacation time isn't guaranteed, right?
True.
And so people have the mindset that they have to like make the most of their time off. Like if you have a week off, you better go and like spend all the money you've ever earned in this entire year on this
Yeah.
vacation. And I describe it as there's actually two different mindsets. There's
Okay.
the vacationer's mindset, which is I'm escaping my life and
Yes.
I need to like get a break from it. And then
Yes.
there's the traveler's mindset, which is
Mm.
where I live in, which is I go and I travel to these places to learn about the cultures and to see and experience new things, people,
Yeah.
food. I'm a foodie.
Same. Same.
Yes. So I will travel for food, label like
Yes.
is me. And so there's a lot of mindset aspects that go into that of like how we're trying to travel. Because if you say that you have to spend all this money to go on a trip, then you're going to go on less trips. But if you find ways, so you're saying, hey, what's more important to me is the experience and to have that food, the local foods, and to see and meet the people. One thing that you realize is that your accommodations is usually where you spend the most amount of money. You spend money on flights, accommodation, and food. But I consider food like I'm going to eat at home too. So I might as well eat somewhere new. Like, that's a wash call. Girl math. Like, it's the same.
Gotcha.
But, so there's two different ways that you can save there, right? So by spending less money on your accommodations, you can still find incredible places to stay all over the world for a budget rate. And so I actually stay in hostels. And I know people hear the word hostel and they think, if you've ever seen the movie, if you haven't seen the movie, don't go watch it. But like, if you've seen it, you're like, that's going to happen to me. I'm going to die.
No, yeah, but I actually thought now, especially if you're like a solo traveler, which is my next question that I was going to ask you, but I think hostel is the best way to do it. You know, it's like, let's say just you, maybe a friend, or like you can actually do that. But I personally have not experienced it. But yeah, please do tell us some more.
Yeah. So hostels are a really great way. And I know people look at it and they're like, oh, hostels, like one, they think it's scary or unsafe. And that's absolutely not true. We actually have hostels here in the United States. You won't find Americans at them because only people from outside the United States are comfortable with hostels. So you'll meet a lot of international people if you go to the ones in America. But they're all over the world. And it's actually... it is shared accommodations, but it's based off of your comfort level. So it can go from 10-bed hostel dorm with male and female to male only, female only, 8 beds, 4 bed. And then you can even get a private room. So if you are a family and there are some hostels, there's different levels of hostels, just like levels of hotels, right? You have your higher end Marriotts,
right?
And there's definitely those in the hostel world too, like the ones you will pay a little bit more for. And when I say a little bit more, I mean like maybe you're paying $40 a night rather than $12 a night, right? Which is still cheap.
Yeah.
Where you can get a higher level type of accommodation in these hostels. And then you have your mom and pop hostels, like the ones that are more family welcoming, like you can bring your family, or it's just travelers of all ages. Some of them are like party hostels. Like, there's all different types.
Gotcha.
And so you just have to know what you're looking for. But there's ways that you can find ways to find these cheap accommodations. I've stayed in hostels for as low as $8 a night in some countries. And it's like, at that point, yes, I can afford $8 a night to be somewhere.
Absolutely. That is so cool.
And some incredible, beautiful places.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, so are you like, do you focus in traveling like in like European area, or does it doesn't matter? You just kind of put an itinerary down. Like, how do you help others, like especially like people who are afraid of like being able, like traveling alone, especially.
So there's a couple layers to that question. One, first off, in regards to where I go. So when it comes to Europe, I do love going to Europe. Europe's one of my favorite continents to go to, but I'm very much open to going to all the other ones. I've done a lot in South and Central America, which are beautiful and gorgeous and totally underrated. So Europe, I love, because I think that a lot of times when we go to some of the countries that are more developing as Americans, I think it's really important for people to also go to European countries, because the mentality we have here in the United States is very fear-based about the rest of the world, because all we hear is bad news.
Correct.
And so we hear this bad news and we're just like, oh my God, it's scary. Oh, I can't leave. Like, I shouldn't leave. I'm going to get, like, we've seen Taken too many times. Okay? Like, they think they're going to go and get taken, and that's not the case. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm not saying danger doesn't happen in the world, but like, it's not as dangerous as people think and expect.
Right.
And so when they go to countries like Europe, if they go to a continent like Europe and they go to countries within there, they realize that those are other first world countries that are really living life in a completely different way. And it
Right.
starts to broaden your perspective of, oh, wow, like there's not just our way of doing things, but we can
Yeah.
learn from other people and how they live.
Okay.
Um, some of those cheaper accommodations, you will get hostels in Europe for about $25 a night. But the cheaper accommodations of like $8 is like I've been in Ecuador and
Nice.
to Colombia and Chile and Guatemala.
Oh
And
my.
there's some incredible, like they love nature and they really do up these
Yeah.
places. And you're in this beautiful environment. I
Wow.
once took a friend and she was like, why would I ever stay in a hotel again? I was like, I know, that's what I tell people. Like,
Right.
I was like, I get it.
Wow. Yeah,
So,
no, I understand.
yeah, like I definitely don't just go to Europe or that continent. I go all over and want to go to as many countries as I can in my lifetime. I'm
That's
working towards a 30 by 30 because I turned 30 this
Ooh.
December. So
How close are you? How close are
I'm at
you?
27 countries, so I
Yeah.
only need three.
Yeah.
So and actually kind of ties into what you were mentioning about how we're helping people.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I
we
was
have
gonna say, yeah, for Moxie Adventures, like how are you like able to like bridge the gap, right? For people that
yeah.
wanna kind of learn.
Yeah, so we have two different ways. So we have group trips that we're starting to do.
Oh,
So
very
we
cool.
are doing group trips. Our group trip the next one is going to Germany. So we're going to the German Christmas markets.
Wait a minute. Let me stop you there. You mean to say that this is a business where you get to travel, teach people how to travel, save money, explore, eat good food, learn new culture, and this is your business? This is your like what you do?
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right, please go on. I'm in the wrong industry. Like, go on.
You can join, Jay. Come on, be a 10x travel advisor.
That's right. That's right. This is
I
cool.
love it.
This is
Yeah,
cool.
so we have our group trip that we
So
are
cool.
doing, and we're planning a bunch for 2025 as well. But our first one is to Germany.
Wow.
And so that one is actually female only, but we're going to have uh, co-gender ones in the future as well. And
Nice.
that one, we're going to the German Christmas markets for 10 days.
Mm.
And that is, we're actually scaling the entire country of Europe, or not Europe, the country of Europe. Why do I keep saying
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
Sorry.
right. I know
The
exactly what you
country
mean.
of
Yeah.
Germany.
Yeah.
So from the south of Germany all the way to the north, and there's so many different cultural aspects. Germany is one of my
So
favorite
amazing.
countries. I've been there 6 times in the past six
What?
years. Yeah, I realize when I'm like counting back, I'm like, wow, I really go there a lot. Trying to
Oh,
meet the German man now. But
I mean, yeah. So that's amazing. Cause like, look, I love to travel myself, but I typically stay closer. So like one of I was born in the Philippines, but all the way in
yeah.
Southeast Asia, I rarely go there. I've since so I was born there, moved to California, and when I was 12, and I've only gone back twice. Yeah,
Mm,
twice, and that's about it. And I'm like, because like my mentality is like it's super expensive, right? And then
yeah.
the hotels and everything else, but like how like I'm just curious like how did you learn all these things and so cool that you founded Moxie Adventures Partners to now help others like myself who
Yeah.
are not as knowledgeable as you are, but like how did you learn about all of these things? So
Yeah,
crazy,
so
amazing.
it was a journey. Like I feel like I keep using that word, but yeah, it really when I did my study abroad, that gave me knowledge to be able to learn like a base knowledge of like just going to a place with a group, which is
Yeah,
kind of it kind of works out perfectly. Like, hey, that's why we're doing the group trips to kind of give people that stepping stone
yeah,
into it. But after that, I did a lot of research online actually, and I started to figure out like about
wow.
the hostels, how to travel to these places,
Yeah,
backpacking. So whenever I travel, I don't travel with a suitcase. I'm not checking bags. I am backpacking. I have my backpack. I pack everything in that and teaching people how to pack less because we pack so much clothes. Like that's like the American mentality. Like I used to be it. I get it.
yeah,
We want to like bring all this stuff and then you don't even wear all of
right,
it, right? And you're like, "Oh, what did I do?" Like but you just lugged it around, right?
right,
So
yeah,
teaching people how to minimalize their packing, and then
nice.
that also saves because then you don't have to pay for a checked bag. Then you can
Mhm.
have just your carry on, and then you for instance, when I'm doing long trips, like a month long, I go to laundromats, or the hostels actually have laundry, and I can just do
Mm-hmm.
laundry like I would at home rather than bringing a
Yeah.
month's worth of clothes with me.
Right.
I
Yeah.
can create multiple outfits. So
Awesome.
yeah, I started just learning about hostels and how affordable they were. Public transportation. Public transportation is not like the United States in these other places. It is incredible, the public
Wow.
transportation that
I
exists.
heard.
And
Yeah.
it's so affordable because that's how a lot of the locals travel, is through public transportation. And you can get to small and big cities from their public transport, whether it's via bus or
Mm.
train. And so that's another affordable way, rather than getting Ubers or renting a
Renting a
car.
car.
You can
Mm-hmm.
just pay for public transport, which in some cities for like a day pass is like $5 to $7 to get a day pass to go around the city.
Dude,
And
that's amazing. And I like, so I'll tell you, like, I travel, we travel as a family, I'd say probably twice a year. And typically the same, like we stay at these resorts and everything else, and we rent a car. And like I said, it does cost a lot overall. And when you eat out, you don't, because of the kids, my kids, I don't go to like the local spots. Like I personally, as a solo travel, if I were to, I wouldn't mind going to like the local. I prefer those things. I prefer
yeah,
to staying outside of the, like the resort, the touristy area. I want to actually explore and see the culture, for what it is, right? And
yeah,
so, but a lot of people are too afraid to do that, including, obviously when I do travel with family, we don't. But
yeah,
like I think that is the way to go. And it's so cool that you're able to, with what you're doing, is you're able to teach others and even like be part of your community, right? So
yeah.
that is so epic. That's so cool. Which I said community. Do you have like any, like I don't know, like a in person or an online virtual group that you have to where you teach people, or?
Yep. So we have launched a community that
Mhm.
is
Cool.
for everyone to be able to join. So there's no restriction on who you are. It is built with experts who are
Nice.
doing monthly calls. And we have the monthly experts talking on different topics about travel. I'm obviously one of them in there
Yeah.
speaking to it as well. And then we
Nice.
are building out different aspects of just courses that people can take on different topics, whether it be about hostels and how to find the best ones, how to get cheap flights, how to maximize credit card points, which is how
Mm,
I don't pay for any of my flights, is because I utilize credit card points and doing that
that's so
smart.
cool. Yeah.
So yeah, we're building out this community to be able to impact as many people as possible and teach them that they don't have to do it as expensive. And you
Wow.
mentioned that, when you take your family, you're going to these touristy areas, but those touristy areas are also more expensive.
Right.
So if you branch outside of those places, one, you'll get a better culture, like food experience,
Yeah.
because it's cultural. Just depending on where you are, there's a lot of places that you can go just beyond, get really good food that isn't catered to the tourists. Meant like that, they're obviously going to charge a little bit more for,
Right.
in
Right.
order to get people, they're in the touristy areas, they have to pay premiums and that. It's just like going to New York. It costs more to be in the center of New York than to eat in Brooklyn,
Us-
maybe.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Or
Yeah.
Queens and
Queens.
yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
New York isn't the best, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm very familiar with New York. I used to frequent there as well when I lived in Boston for 3 years. So I definitely understand what you're saying when it comes to NYC. But I have a follow up question as well, Lucy. Um, as far as like growth and positive impact of travel through your nonprofit, like tell us about that, because I remember talking to you about the traveling youth. So can you kind of explain that a little bit and share it with us?
Yeah. So I started, and I don't think I mentioned this earlier, but with the study abroad trip that I did, it really did
Hmm.
impact me. And at the end of that trip, that study, or the 4 months that I was overseas, I
Yeah.
said I wanted to impact other people's lives with this and help them, to teach them how to not do, um, to not have to go through the worst thing in their life in order to experience something, that there's
Yeah.
opportunity should be available to everyone. And so I came up with the idea for my nonprofit back in 2018, but I didn't actually launch it until 2020.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
the nonprofit organization is called the Traveling Youth. We help underserved college and trade students take study abroad trips overseas.
So cool.
And that is to give these kids an opportunity from 18 to 25. Like I said, you think you're an adult at 18, but you're not. So that is your pivotal
Yeah.
point of growth during that time frame. And so we want to take those young adults who,
Wow.
nonprofits a lot of times help up until 18 and then drop off with services. We
Hmm.
want to take those adults that are looking to take that next step and learn a little bit more about themselves outside of their local community, because there's a lot of people who would never left their city, their state, the
Yeah.
country, right? And give them an opportunity to be able to grow beyond that. And what we do with a nonprofit is they go on the study abroad trip, but we have an assessment that is called the EQI assessment.
Okay.
And that EQI assessment is actually an emotional intelligence assessment that gauges things like self-awareness, empathy, um, self-preservation, stress tolerance, these different key aspects that
Yeah.
we're monitoring. And so we get that before they leave for the trip, and then we test them again after the trip so that we have measurables. That's how we measure our success as a nonprofit.
Very cool.
And so we've seen growth as high as 11% in some categories, like those stress tolerance.
I
And it's been
see.
incredible to see that like travel can impact the lives of these young adults. Just like I feel like it's like, how do you gauge an experience? And when we found this, I was like,
Yeah.
wow, like you really can see the difference of how it can open up the mind of a younger adult or anybody. I think it
Yeah.
really can open the mind of, but just giving them an opportunity to see beyond their walls of, I call it a box. We're all born into this box. And
Yeah.
like when someone opens it up for you, it gives you an opportunity to see beyond what you've known your entire life and kind of come up with your own perspectives.
Yeah, no, that's pretty amazing, and highly applaud you for starting a nonprofit. I think that's so excellent. I actually, in the future, I would love to start my own, but I haven't done any kind of research. But since you've already done it, and you're here on the podcast, and we love to share, amazing stories, and as well as some golden nuggets that people could take on and utilize for themselves. But for me, it's just a selfish question: how hard was it to start a nonprofit?
It was hard. It
Yeah.
was, I won't
Oh,
say it
yeah.
was easy. There's been a lot of things in my life that have kind of come to fruition and like
Hmm.
I have thought about, and then like the right people at the right time come into play, and it's
Yeah.
like, this needs to happen. And I was like,
Right.
okay. And I've just been like, all right, going along with it. And so at the time that I started my nonprofit, it was funny. I didn't anticipate starting it in 2020 during a pandemic when nobody could travel.
I
Like it
know.
was not in the plans, right?
Right. Right.
But I had reached out to the professors for my study abroad, told them about the idea, and they told me to implement it into the capstone program at the local college
Oh,
here.
cool.
So having students work on it. And at the time, I had also asked about, like, when we were having those students work on it, I was like, okay, well, let me try and see what I can do to get the right people in place that I need for my board of directors. And
Hmm.
every single person I asked said yes. And I was like, wow, like, oh, okay. Like, all right, I guess this is happening. And it's been a journey over the years. We've learned a lot, and it's taken time. So we did some research, and then there were things that we had to learn along the way. As a smaller nonprofit, we did a lot of community outreach. We were ground roots. We still are ground roots, and we're
Yeah.
looking to get more um, grants. We're trying to get more grants in from other entities, and then also like expand our reach across the country so that we can get bigger donations in. But
Nice.
before, we all just started local, and so it was just like local
Wow.
engagement of local businesses and getting local sponsorships and raising capital and money. And we've raised over 70,000 in the past few
That's
years.
that's so
But yeah,
cool.
it was just, having a team of dedicated. You can't do it alone. You can't
Right.
do it
Right.
alone. And having a team of dedicated people, I was very grateful to have the people that I brought on board who gave their own perspectives and their own knowledge, and a couple of people who have been in the nonprofit industry for a long time, guiding and helping us lead the way. It's an incredible opportunity to be able to grow and learn from others, and just to
Yeah.
build something that we're all passionate about, helping other people. So
Yeah.
it's a whole nother flip side of business. Some people look at nonprofit as business. There's business aspects. I don't look at it as a business,
I see.
but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I know what you mean. So cool. I definitely, that's one of my bucket lists in the future, just to be able to give back again to the community. I feel like, we see success as an entrepreneur and as a business, but at the same time, like, I strongly believe of like giving back to the universe. And one way that I
Yeah.
could do that outside of what I'm already doing now is to start a nonprofit and for my own cause. And for me, it would be uh, stop basically like human trafficking
Mm,
and I didn't know how severe it was. I knew it was bad, but I didn't know
yeah.
how severe it was until I'd say probably the last year. So I'm like, yeah, and
Yeah.
they need more people. So that's cool. So thank you for
There's a
sharing
lot of,
that.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, no, yeah, no. But thanks for sharing that info with the nonprofit because that is something that I want to start in the future as well. So
That's
I
amazing. I
appreciate
love
it.
that. No, and there's so many. What I would recommend is like going and looking at the other organizations that have been put in place for that and see where the
Hmm.
missing gap is that you can
Yeah,
provide something. Because I know there's a lot of organizations. I know someone on our board who is a part of that same cause. That's another piece that he's really passionate about.
yeah.
And there's so many different organizations that are doing that. And I think it's an incredible cause to support. So I love that
Yeah.
you want to start that. That's incredible.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I
Yeah.
hope I get to do it sometime soon. But
Yeah.
just different projects here and there that I gotta finish first. But um, I want to kind of touch base on the entrepreneurial part. You're a
Mhm.
serial entrepreneur. Um, with other businesses that you're running. You mentioned that you have a social media agency as well, which is cool. And the question I want to ask you, Lucy, is like how like what really changed your mindset and as far as like taking a risk and being an entrepreneur because most
Mm.
people and you may already experience it before you became an entrepreneur. It's too risky, it's too hard, it's uncomfortable. But like what got you to like shift into to really trying and pushing forward to being an entrepreneur and a business owner?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like entrepreneurship sometimes chooses people and it's like, you're it, like you're going to
Mm.
do this.
Wow, okay,
And so
yeah,
I feel like entrepreneurs, like sometimes you have that internal drive that you want to do something for you.
yeah.
And then like, usually there's something that pushes you over the edge to do it. Right.
Right.
And for me, I was thinking about it and then things with my previous job because I used to work that 9 to 5 job didn't
Hmm.
work out as I had anticipated and they ended up letting me go.
Hmm.
And that is what pushed me into I was like, you know what? This is my time. This is when I'm
Wow.
going to
Okay.
do it. And
Yeah.
I actually got a lot of job offers after I had announced that I had left that job.
Yeah.
And they were kind of tempting, but at the same time, like something internally in me was like, no, like you're going to do this. Like, even though I was in a pinch and like the timing was probably the worst timing in my life, I was like, no, I'm going to do this and I'm going to make it happen.
So
And it was the
cool.
best decision I could have ever made. And what I would say for those who are like scared or a little bit worried about the risk of what it takes is I will say it is the hard. I have worked the hardest I have in my entire life as an entrepreneur.
Right.
But I don't think every entrepreneur, in my opinion, or majority, I should say,
Yeah.
does it because of the freedom that it gives you
That's right.
to be and do what you want. And I will tell you, there's nothing like patting yourself on the back after you know you did everything that you could. And when you work
Hmm.
for another business, and some businesses are getting better about this,
Yeah.
but understanding and feeling appreciated by the companies that we work for sometimes isn't always seen about how much work we're actually putting into them.
Right.
And
Right.
so as an entrepreneur, it's been like the first time that I've actually like I know the work I've put into this and the pats on the back to myself means something because
Exactly.
I know I did the work and I know
Right.
that I'm benefiting from the work I put into it and the time, effort and energy.
Right.
And yeah, so that's a little bit I feel like if you're in that mindset of the 9 to 5 and you feel like you've been like not appreciated and you do have that entrepreneurship spirit and you want to try it, you should and you can and you will find it so rewarding. There's so many lessons to learn along the way.
Right.
And just as long as you're passionate about what you're doing, just make sure you're doing it for I would say the right reasons because
The right
you do have to
reasons.
work really hard.
Right.
And if you're just doing it for the money, that's not a reason to do it.
I
Like
tell
that's
I girl, I say the same exact thing. Don't do it for the money because the the work that needs to get done, especially in the early stages of running a business, it's a lot of work.
A
And
lot.
if you're used to working 8 hour, 9 hour shifts, 5 days a week, as an entrepreneur, man, we work long hours in the beginning
Long.
stages because you gotta adjust, adapt, and like continue on and pushing towards whatever goal that you have for the business. And so,
Yeah.
I definitely say the same thing. Money shouldn't be the reason. That should be the product of your business success, but it should be, otherwise. Yeah, whether
Yeah.
it's to, you know, family or freedom, get a chance of freedom to travel and all that stuff. For
Yeah.
me, I started off as wanting to spend more quality time with my kids,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, and then the rest has just been amazing. And it's been such uh, an epic journey, to say the least, and lots of long hours, 6 days, a week in the very beginning, but I wouldn't change it for the world, because now I truly have the time freedom, and
Yeah.
like I said, the money is part of the success that we're seeing. So, but yeah, my
Yeah.
why was my family,
I
essentially.
love
Yeah,
that.
when I started my business, and I remember, Lucy, when I first got out of the U.S. Navy. My goal. I got my master's degree while I was active duty in organizational development and leadership. And I was like, all
Mm.
right, cool. I could now, I've done really well serving our country in the U.S. Navy. I want to now start a new path, a new chapter in my life, and work my way up in corporate America. And I actually went through different application. I had a few interviews, and I had one. Uh, Actually, I remember, I'm just sharing my story. I had one offer at this time before I shifted, like, to saying that I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to start my own,
Yeah.
business. I got offered to be a recruiting manager for a biotechnology company. It's a like 10-figure, company that's been ran here in the United States for many, many years. But nonetheless, they offered me, I remember, $135,000 in annual salary, and I was like,
Wow.
wow. I'm like, at the time, I was like, that's more than what I was making at my highest level in the U.S. Navy. This is
Mm-hmm.
great, you know. Um,
Yeah.
but then I started thinking, I'm like, all right, well, now I've been sacrificing for a few years. I want to spend more time with my family. This job requires somebody who's gonna be 100% committed and it's gonna be there, at the office day in and day out for the most part. And I'm like, well, I've already done that, for our country. I want to spend time for my family. I want to focus on my kids, be able to attend soccer practice, like ballet recitals. And I said, you know what? I'm just gonna start my own business, a small one. I started as a solopreneur. I started my own recruiting agency, a one man
Ooh.
show. I did everything on my own, as you know. Like, if you don't know, you don't have a lot of good mentors, or entrepreneurs around you, right? You don't know a lot. So
Yeah.
I started YouTubing things. I'm like, all right, I can do this, I can do that, and then I came across a business coach, and I ended up paying for the guy. Paid $10,000, and the most I've ever paid for. But nonetheless, that business coach allowed me to see success immediately. But going back to like the 9 to 5 job, I chose to do the entrepreneurial route just because of being able to spend time with my family. Now it's I can't go back, knowing what I know, and the freedom and the time. And I was telling you, we were in Cabo, not Cabo, Cancun, back in July, and it was a vacation, but I did do a couple of work stuff. But that's the
I,
that's the beauty of it,
yeah, you can
you
work remotely if you have that type of
business, yeah,
business. Yeah, because
absolutely,
I
yeah.
work I work a lot on my trips. So I'm in
Mm.
beautiful places, but I'm working. The laptop is with me.
But
Working in the airports on the way there,
right,
like the
exactly.
entire
But you,
thing.
you say what you said, right? Like, we're escaping. Like, we go on vacation. The people that go on vacation, like myself, for the most
Yeah,
part, to get away from their day to day, to get a break.
yeah,
And there's people like you who's going to travel and exploring, and seeing what's truly out there. So, but I truly get it. I want to be the latter at some point. I want to be able to just work anywhere and travel Europe, backpack, but then make some time and do a little bit of work and then do it again
Yeah.
and repeat. So such a cool, amazing topic, and I'm sure so many people that is able to watch and listen to this episode is going to be very excited to kind of learn more about you. I personally don't have a lot of knowledge, but that's where you come in. So for our viewers and our listeners, definitely I'm going to be linking all the social media platforms and channels that Lucie is a part of, and I'll share it with you guys so you can definitely reach out to her and be part of her community, or just if you just want to find out more about what she does and how she can potentially help you, then certainly reach out to her. And next question, because we're not done yet. I've a few
But
other.
wait, there's more.
Yeah, exactly. Wait, there's more. I want to kind of go back to the traveling part. How often will you be doing these trips with like group trips? I feel like that's gonna be fun,
Yeah.
and just if you're afraid to travel by yourself, like you could
Mhm.
still do it, but you could go with you guys with your company and your business and travel. Oh, sorry, I'm getting excited. My camera
Oh no!
started moving.
Your camera's like, I'm going on vacation.
Exactly. Let me fix this real quick. All right, there you go. Fix it a little bit.
There you
But
go.
yeah, no. Going back to my question,
There we go.
um, I'm back on the mic. This is a little bit better. But yeah, going back. So how often will you be doing this? So while I'm adjusting my camera, just go ahead and let
Yeah.
us know like how many trips will you be like doing for 2025?
Yeah. So for 2025, we are planning to do a trip quarterly. So we'll
Nice.
have four trips that we're doing as Moxie. And with our community, we are actually bringing on other experts, and we're going to be partnering and helping other travel coaches around the
Nice.
US to actually host different retreats and different types of trips. So we'll have actually a lot more to come in the coming year that we're very excited about.
Super.
So we'll have our own trips that we're promoting, but then we'll also be partnering with other people that will have retreats and different types of trips that people can go on too that we're partnering with them on. So
So exciting.
yeah, it's really the stepping stone for people, because we know that I would love to get as many people to travel solo as possible. Like even if you are in a relationship, because we
Yeah.
actually have like a relationship coach that will be coming in and talking about traveling, like
Yeah.
with like being married or whatever it is, because so they have that whole expertise. But I
Yep.
do believe that it's impactful for everyone to travel solo at some time in their life, because you learn so much about yourself and
Yeah.
how you interact with things. It's the first time in your life that you might have that opportunity to be able to ask yourself, like, what do I want in this
Right.
exact moment? Um, and not being distracted by other people's like opinions or whatever it is. Like when you travel with people, it can be very very specific about the people you should travel with. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
sometimes when people have, it's like you don't want to disappoint anyone. So it's
True.
like if you're traveling somewhere and then someone, feels they want to do this, but you want to do this. And then there's like a compromise that's happening all the time in our lives. And so when
Right.
you travel solo, you get that opportunity to like say, no, I want to do this. And
Yeah.
so that's the goal, is to get people to do that. But then they get the group trips, and then they get freedom in that, and kind of just learning and seeing that, the pieces of the world that maybe they didn't know. We do coaching throughout that when they do the trips with us too, like, hey, this is
That's
how
so
you can
fun.
pack, etc. So it's a all encompassing type of thing. And
Yeah.
then we're all just trying to guide them towards their own trips and journeys, and learning how to do that as effectively as possible. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm a fan, Lucy, and I'm like, how can I get a part of your network?
You'll be in
And
the community.
I'm like, this is so cool, guys. Like for me, like I mean, who does not love to travel, and who does not love to travel at like at a budget like friendly way. Like I'd rather do that, to be
Yeah.
honest with you, because it's great. Yeah, you stay at these fancy hotels and everything else, but most of the time you're only there to sleep. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And I'm like, every time I'm like, okay, we got these like three 2-bedroom suites, whatever, depends on how many people I bring, like with my family, and it definitely costs money. Like, what if I could just get into like a smaller, like not, it doesn't have to be super expensive, it doesn't have to be super
Mhm.
fancy, but as long as it's comfortable and safe, to where we can get up in the morning and go again, and then come back home and rest, and then
I
do it
tell
again.
people, I
Yeah,
tell people that all the time. I'm like,
yeah,
how often are you spending in your room? Like,
right. Right.
I'm there to sleep and get up
That's
the
it.
next day and see the place that I'm in. So you're
That's
spending
it.
very few hours in there.
Right.
And but yet we're spending the most money on that. No, I'd rather be spending my money out there.
Hmm.
And then it gives you more flexibility to be able to travel more when
Right.
you spend less on those trips.
Right.
So
And yeah, 100%. Because I'm like, all right, well, yeah, it's if I can save money in many other ways, I'm like, I'll get a chance to travel a lot more, you know? So,
yeah.
so this is awesome. This is super, super awesome. I'm so stoked to have you here, Lucie. I feel like I want to ask you a lot more questions, but for the sake of like the length of the video, the podcast, I we're gonna end it here soon, but it doesn't end for a lot of our viewers and our listeners because Lucie is going to be available to reach out to her, and probably this is probably a great way. So that way, there's a lot more things they want to find out about what you do and how you can help them. So they can reach out to her in her social medias as well. But last thing that I want to ask you, Lucie, what would be your advice to those people who are hesitant to travel because they're either scared or they have a misunderstanding that it's going to cost thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and just the fear of not knowing? Like, what would be your best advice to them before we end the episode?
Absolutely. I would say that if you're waiting on other people in order to go places, stop waiting on others. It is something that everyone can benefit from. And if you're on the fence about it, I promise you, it is not as scary as it seems. You can do it. And I tell people all the time, they look at me sometimes and they say, "Oh, you're so brave," or "Oh, I wish I could do what you do." And I'm like, I'm not special. Like, you can do this too.
Yeah.
And if it's something that you want to do, it's just a matter of priority. So you just have to make it a priority. You just have to say, I'm going to do this. How can I make this work? And you will make it work. And that is what it takes. And I actually have a tattoo on my arm that says,
let's see.
"We travel not to escape life, but for life not to escape us."
Hey, so cool.
It. Mic drop.
Boom.
You can help people grow their business to travel more.
There you go. Exactly. And I mean, I am definitely going to keep an eye out for all future travels, Lucie. And it seems like this is going to be fun. Obviously, you do your co-ed, travels and then group trips with women, but super cool nonetheless. So if you, our viewers or listeners, if you think you want to know how you can save money and maybe even like travel hack, Lucie knows the way. So reach out to her because I know I will personally. It's somebody that's wanting to travel, so I'll be doing that after the show. And but nonetheless, Lucie, you're amazing. You're awesome. It's such a pleasure to meeting you at the 10X stages. You are a rock star. You are natural, and you are definitely passionate about what you do, and that is serving others. So thank you so much for being here. And for our viewers, I hope you found this episode so amazing. And if you did, please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you at the next episode. Take care.
Thank you, Jay. Bye.
Thank you.